Chapter 14, Into the Maw. "They've been watching us the whole time," Zara said, his voice low and filled with anger. "They knew we were coming." Lyra's grip tightened on her weapon, the weight of Zara's realization sinking in like a stone. The air in the command center felt thick, suffocating, as if the very walls were alive, listening to their every breath. The creature that had taken shadow had vanished, leaving behind an ominous silence that pressed down on them like a heavy shroud. Thorn's hands hovered over the final explosive charge, his movements frozen as the gravity of their situation became clear. "If they knew we were coming, then this could all be a trap," he muttered, his voice barely audible. Lyra exchanged a glance with Zara, her mind racing. They were deep in the heart of enemy territory, surrounded by alien technology they barely understood, and the one advantage they thought they had, the element of surprise, was gone. "We can't stop now," Lyra said, her voice firm despite the uncertainty gnawing at her insides. "If we hesitate, we lose everything. We have to finish this." Thorn nodded, his resolve hardening. He quickly set the final charge, his fingers moving with renewed urgency. "Once these are detonated, the entire command structure will be crippled. It won't end the war, but it'll give us a fighting chance." Zara took a step closer to the console, his eyes scanning the intricate patterns of light and energy that pulsed through it. "They may know we're here, but they don't know our plan. We still have the element of unpredictability on our side." Lyra felt a flicker of hope at Zara's words. It was true. They had come this far by defying the odds, by refusing to be predictable. The aliens might be watching, but they couldn't predict the human spirit, the drive to survive and fight back against all odds. With the charges in place, Thorn activated a small device on his wrist, syncing the explosives with his command. "We need to get out of here before these blow," he said, his voice tense. "We have less than 10 minutes. They turned to leave the chamber, but before they could take a step, the entire room shuddered, a deep, resonating hum filling the air. Lyra's heart skipped a beat as she realized the console was reacting to them. "Move!" Zara shouted, grabbing Lyra's arm and pulling her towards the exit. The hum grew louder, the light from the console intensifying until it bathed the room in a blinding, pulsating glow. Lyra shielded her eyes as they stumbled through the corridor, the walls vibrating with a strange, unsettling energy. The very air seemed to throb with the alien rhythm, a rhythm that matched the frantic beating of her heart. As they raced down the corridor, the vibrations grew stronger, the walls beginning to warp and twist as if the command center itself was coming alive. Lyra could feel the alien presence pressing in on them, a suffocating force that threatened to crush them under its weight. "We're not going to make it," Thorn panted, his voice laced with desperation. "It's like the whole place is collapsing." "No, it's something else," Zara said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "They're trying to contain us, trap us inside. We have to keep moving." They pushed forward, the corridor stretching on endlessly before them. The alien presence seemed to grow stronger with every step, a malevolent force that sought to ensnare them in its grip. Lyra's breath came in ragged gasps, her legs burning with the effort, but she refused to slow down. The memory of Shadow, limp and helpless in the creature's claws, drove her forward. She couldn't let him down. She couldn't let any of them down. Finally, they burst through the last set of doors, the cold air of the surface hitting them like a slap in the face. The stark contrast between the suffocating interior of the command center and the harsh reality of the outside world was jarring, but there was no time to dwell on it. They sprinted towards the extraction point, the explosives timer ticking down relentlessly. Behind them, the command center shuddered again, the vibrations reaching a fever pitch. Lyra risked a glance back, her heart lurching as she saw the entire structure begin to implode, the alien technology collapsing in on itself in a whirl of light and energy. "Detonate it now!" Zara shouted, his voice barely audible over the deafening roar. Thorn didn't hesitate. He slammed his hand down on the detonator, and for a split second, the world seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a sound like the tearing of reality itself, the explosives detonated, unleashing a shockwave that tore through the command center. The structure crumbled in on itself, the alien technology disintegrating into nothingness as the resonance disruptor unleashed its full power. The ground shook violently, and Lyra was thrown off her feet, the force of the blast slamming into her like a freight train. She hit the ground hard, her vision swimming as the world spun around her. For a moment, everything was a blur of noise and pain, but then, gradually, the chaos began to subside. The roar of the explosion faded, leaving behind a ringing silence that was almost more unsettling than the noise. Lyra forced herself to sit up, her body aching from the impact. She looked around, her heart pounding in her chest. The command center was gone, reduced to a smoking crater in the ground. The landscape around them was eerily still, the alien presence that had once suffused the area now completely absent. Zara and Thorn were nearby, both of them slowly getting to their feet. They looked as shaken as she felt, but there was a glint of triumph in Zara's eyes, a spark of victory that hadn't been there before. "We did it," Thorn said, his voice hoarse with exhaustion. "We actually did it." Lyra nodded, her throat too dry to speak. The reality of their success was still sinking in, the enormity of what they had just accomplished almost too much to process. They had struck a decisive blow against the aliens, crippled their command structure, and given humanity a fighting chance. But even as relief washed over her, a shadow lingered in the back of her mind, a shadow in the shape of a cat. Shadow was still out there, in the clutches of the aliens, and whatever they planned to do with him was still a mystery. The victory they had won here was only the beginning. The war was far from over. As they regrouped, Zara pulled out a small device, a communicator linked to the Resistance's network. "We need to inform Maddox and the others. They'll want to know the command center is down." Thorn nodded, but his expression was grim. "And we need to figure out what they were doing with Shadow. If they've been watching us this whole time, then this was never just about taking out their command center. They have something bigger planned, and we need to be ready." Lyra clenched her fists, determination hardening within her. "Whatever they're planning, we'll stop them. We've come this far, and we're not backing down now." Zara met her gaze, his eyes filled with the same resolve. "Agreed. But we need to be smart about this. We can't afford any more surprises." As they made their way back to the refuge, the weight of their victory tempered by the uncertainty of what lay ahead, Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that the true battle was just beginning. The aliens had revealed their hand, but the game was far from over. And somewhere out there, Shadow was waiting.